Throughout the annals of history, the noble craft of teaching has stood as a beacon of enlightenment, shaping the minds and hearts of countless individuals across the globe. Teaching ranks amongst the oldest and most revered professions known to humanity. In times past, the path to becoming a teacher differed remarkably from modern standards. Licentiate was but a distant notion, and one's qualifications were not measured by official documentation, but by the innate ability to impart knowledge.
Alright, so we can still simplify it, right? 3 goes here 1, it goes here 1, how many times? 1.
The essence of teaching transcended mere technique. It was regarded as an art form demanding a blend of professionalism, skill, and innate passion to inspire and educate young minds. Like the physicians or attorneys, teachers are required to procure a license so that the consumer may somehow be assured of the quality of the product being provided.
The teacher license here, it's one key component that has come to stay, and I believe it has come to enhance the teaching profession. Apparently, it has given a new dimension to the face of teaching in Ghana, making a Ghanaian teacher available and competitive for the global market. So professionally, the teaching license, I would say it's a very prudent tool that has come to complement the efforts of Ghanaian teachers and also giving us a very recognizable status in the global community.
Francis Donko is a teacher here. He feels the teacher license has added enormous value to him and classed him as a professional.
It has added a lot. Professionally, whatever we will go through in the colleges, actually, and realities on the field, actually, it's, I would say, not very in line. But the teacher licensing as a professional status, one, as I stand here, has given me a facelift, as I said earlier. Apparently, I've been able to secure a qualified teacher status in the UK. Where professionally now, if today I want to move to the global market to go teach in the UK, I have the UK standard due to the teacher license I had in Ghana, projecting me to the global market in the teaching space.
Mr. Donko is of the firm belief that anything that's new faces some challenges, and with time, such challenges would be surmounted.
Stakeholders in terms of COS and other agencies might have understood the concept because they start with their bodies and then they planned everything. But the teacher in the classroom actually at a point was missing out. So apparently it became a challenge, right? Understanding and appreciating and accepting the entire concept. But within the process, as time goes on, I believe we've come to accept it as it is. We've come to accept the fact that it has come to stay and it's part of us, building our capacity, engaging us in our PLCs, building our PDs and all the likes. So professionally, it's given us a community where we exchange ideas.
Francis's colleague teacher, Faith Akujakwasu, who is now the 2023 Ghana's most outstanding teacher, is not lost out in the new teaching licensing euphoria. She believes that the trust the public has for the teacher has increased, and by virtue of standardization, many parents now feel their children are in secure and capable hands.
The license helps me gain the trust of the people around the country and across the globe. It makes them believe that I'm competent enough to educate learners because I am a licensed teacher. In my municipal, we always meet as teachers to share innovative and effective ways of teaching. It helps us share ideas among ourselves, our best practices. It helps us look at the needs of the teacher and the learner and how to address it in the professional learning community. And I think a lot of knowledge is gained during those interactions. So the professional learning community helps teachers to come out with their problems, especially with difficult topics, and how we could use effective and innovative instructional practices to solve them.
The Education Act 2008 Act 778 makes provision for the implementation of the teacher licensure in Ghana. According to Act 778, the National Teaching Council is to register teachers after they have satisfied the appropriate conditions for initial licensing and issue the appropriate license. In 2018, government enacted a new Education Act, and within the Act, 3 new regulatory authorities were created: the National Teaching Council, the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, and the National Inspectorate Authority. The implementation of the Act faced a lot of opposition amidst protests from teachers. But in 2020, a new Education Act was passed that reinforced the need for the licensure exam. Dr. Christian Adaipoku is the registrar of the National Teaching Council. Dr. Adaipoku has identified why many of the teachers who were classroom-bound failed in the licensure exams.
The exam started in 2018, but every year we write 2 sets of the exam. So we have the main examination and then we have a recit. That's why we have been writing it. And for those who have had a chance to be part of the examiners, I'm sure if you get a chance to interview some of them, they will tell you their stories. Everybody has come to realize that we're doing Ghanaian children a lot of harm, allowing everybody to enter the classroom, because the evidence from the examinations have shown that a lot of people really didn't fit to be in the classroom, but we were just pushing them in. And so it's been good. Fortunately, we had a University of Education, Winneba, did a study on the licensure examination. They disseminated it, I think, early this year. And it showed clearly that there is massive support for the licensure examination, even among candidates who have not been successful. Those who have written the examination and have not been successful, more than 50% of them think that the licensure examination is necessary.
Dr. Christian Adaipoku is the registrar of the National Teaching Council. Dr. Adaipoku has identified why many of the teachers who were classroom-bound failed in the licensure exams.
I must confess, but the point is, of course, even when we were at the colleges of education or the training colleges by then, we had people who struggled a lot to be able to make it through. I think the sieving process has not been that rigorous to some extent, especially in the traditional universities. The colleges of education, this data has shown that tend to do very well. We've had a pass rate of around 80% averagely in the various examinations that we've conducted. But the universities, especially with the sandwich and distance programs, have not been performing at all. And that's a worry. You've been hovering around 45% pass, and that's a worry. And so I think they need to really look at the sandwich and distance programs very well, because that is where the real bane is, where the failure rate is so high. That is not to say that in the colleges you are not getting people who are failing. Some are failing, but majority of them pass the exam from the colleges of education. Even the mainstream universities, people tend to pass, but the sandwich and distance programs have been the major problems.
The National Teaching Council is mandated by the Education Regulatory Bodies Act 2020, Act 1023, to regulate the teaching profession in Ghana. As part of the Council's regulatory functions, it is mandated to conduct examination for licensing of people who desire to teach. The purpose of the license and examination is to enable qualified teachers acquire a professional license and prepare teachers to meet the demands of the national teacher standards of possessing the minimum knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes necessary to deliver effectively in the schools. 5 years after the introduction of the Ghana Teacher Licensure Examination, the Council is embarking on reform to introduce subject-based Ghana Teacher Licensure Examination this year. This is in response to the need to test both the content and the professional knowledge of the prospective teachers. Since the inception of the teacher licensure exams, Every year, the media is replete with the percentages of teachers who sat the exams and failed. Many did not understand why the failure rate was that massive, but in 2023, the public was surprised with the answers to why the teachers who sit the exams fail. Millions of eyes were served with some of the scripts. A professor of education and pro-vice chancellor of the Akintina Piamin Kanji University of Skills Training and Entrepreneurial Development, Professor Isaac Boateng, believes the licensure exams has proven to be an effective mechanism and has gravely enhanced the image of the teaching profession.
It's like how relevant is professional doctors, having a professional doctors in our country. I think no one can just get up and go and sit somewhere and prescribing medicine for people to take. No one can get anywhere and just go with a surgical knife, starting cutting people. And that is what professionalism or professional practicing is important. Equally, teaching is probably far important than these professions that I've mentioned, like the medicine, the lawyer, and all that, because the background of every profession is teaching. The doctor was taught, the lawyer was taught, the accountant, all of them require someone to teach them to obtain that professional certificate. Not long ago, there was licensure exams that the results was like through so much discussion in the airwaves in the country, because many of them failed the exams. I mean, we could take the candidate who sat the exams. And these candidates were people who have failed the license test from the beginning, from the inception till date. And NTC want to change the way they examine the teachers. So they gave all the failed candidates the last chance, or last but one chance, to write the exams. And if you look at the total number of candidates and the pass rate, it was so astonishing. And this tells us that had it not been the license introduced, all those failures would have entered into classroom, and they are going to teach something probably they don't know, or they are going to practice something they don't have the skills and attitude for. So the importance of the license is that it's able to take away people who are, I wouldn't say they are bad, but who do not have the vocation and the call to be teachers out. Sometimes because we have a lot of unemployment in the country, people might say, oh, when you go to teaching or you go to nursing, you can find a job. So some people by their nature are not teachers. And no matter the training we give them, they cannot be good teachers as well.
But a number of variables definitely might have contributed to the current regime. One is that the colleges are no longer under one institution. What it means is that different forms of processes in terms of curriculum, in terms of assessment, in terms of beliefs and practices, they have changed. We have also other institutions coming in, such as private institutions, distance education systems, and so on and so forth. So when you have various sources of institutions or various sources of teachers coming into the system, then you need to find a way of making sure that you have a uniform way of ascertaining quality in terms of the products that are coming into the teaching profession, because you no longer can use the same model as it used to be to give the numbers or teachers' numbers. So that is why the NTC resorted to making sure that for new entrants, you undertake some exams, which is professional exams. in that regard.
The director of the Institute of Education at the University of Cape Coast, Professor Eric Anane, points to the issue of multiplicity of training institutions as one of the factors that account for the products that sit for the exams and fail.
If you have gone through a number of research, including mine, many people get probably into colleges of education sometimes because they feel that they don't have any other place to go, and therefore the motivation to even learn and be able to pass these examinations is not there. So they are likely to fail in that regard. Others too may not have the ability. So as a practitioner, I wouldn't say that I'm surprised. The general public is interested in what is going on because we are all sending our children to the classrooms for them to be trained. So we are interested in who is going to teach our children, because sometimes it could be that the institutions are not so clear as to what the system will want. So their training will be focusing on other areas which is maybe not so much needed. Then you can then bring the attention to the fact that this is the product. They don't have A, B, C, D in terms of the standards. Could you please reform your system to make sure that it reflects it?
The National Teaching Council Registrar is challenging the educational training institutions in the country, including the universities, to tighten their quality assurance mechanisms, especially their distance and sandwich programs that churn out these products.
How can we sort of check the entry into the teacher training institutions? In fact, there was a study I conducted, and I found out that your entry aggregate explains about 21% of your performance at the end in the teacher training institutions. And if you look at it critically, those who came in with good aggregates, that's from where they achieve it on their own. I'm saying that in the regime where there is a lot of more practice, people can get good aggregate, but they may not perform. And probably that is why it is 21%. So if you achieve good aggregates on your own from secondary school and you come to teacher training institution, there's that likelihood that you will do well. You'll be able to achieve most of the competencies and skills and then the attributes and the knowledge required of you in the system. And if you look at the licensing examination, there is also analysis done. Those who have passed well, they have a higher probability of passing the National Teacher Licensure Examination, which means that they have the attributes required. So what it means is that if you are able to strengthen the entry requirements and then make sure that we take people who really have passed and passed well into teacher training, and then in the system we are able to focus on achieving the standards through the courses and the programs we set out for the students, then the better. It will get to a point where, if not all, majority of the candidates who come out of the institutions will be able to pass the examination. I think that's what we are all looking for.
Is it correct? Yes. Do you follow? All right.
Good teaching, it is said, guarantees good educational success for quality education and student development. The teacher and the teaching have long been the critical and most considered indicators by policymakers, parents, and the entire society as to where and who should provide tuition and transfer of knowledge to children. The Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Dr. Eric Nkansa, believes tightening the loose ends at the entry level would help a great deal to getting quality in the classrooms.
What I would say is that the issue, when people say that teachers wrote and the kind of feedback of what we saw on the papers, what I see is that these are individuals who have been trained in our schools to come and teach. Before they come into our classrooms, they need to go through that licensure. And the licensure exam that they are writing, at that point, I do not think that they are employees yet. It is after they have passed that they become our employees. That is when we would say that these are bona fide teachers. of GS. And I think it's important that I clarify this. And all those who are writing the exam are not people or students from our training colleges, as in the colleges of education. We have those who have also sat for private diplomas, those who have also come from our distance learning programs on the universities. All of them come together. And it's gratifying, at least for those of us in education administration, that we use that as more or less a gatekeeper to ensuring that we get the best quality teachers coming into our fold. It would have been my wish that almost every trained teacher goes through this and pass at once. You heard me talk about gatekeeping. I want to believe that the gatekeeping at the very outset of your education in, let's say, basic education, in a degree or diploma, whichever one that you took, I would have thought that we would begin to sieve them at the entry level so that those who really want to teach should apply themselves well maybe at the entry level, so that we are able to get the good quality ones in there. And by the time they finish, we wouldn't see the kind of scripts that you are referring to. So one of the things that I believe could be done is doing this at a very entry level, so that you would not even waste time. I don't know, for want of a better word, to say that to stay through the process for about 3 years and at the end of it produce the kind of script that you are referring to. So maybe one of the things we can do is to ensuring at the entry level we get some kind of entrance exam even before you get into your studies at either the colleges of education or any university at any level.
The new wind that is blowing in the teaching profession appears to be brewing some confidence in the profession. Many educationists have thrown their support behind the teacher licensure exams. Betty Jokoto is an educationist and former headmistress of Wesley Girls Senior High School.
You will have to meet the standards. I don't know whichever means they use to get there. You see, you know our institutions, and there are several institutions churning out teachers. So now, prove yourself. Prove yourself and let's see. And it's the minimum. So I can't get it. It's a minimum. If you are worth your salt, you should be able to do it. I did see, and if I should tell you some of the content, I am so happy because I tell you, having been in the educational space for a while, about 80% is the teacher, if not more. I'm telling you, it's sad that maybe the recognition has not come yet. But you see, the teacher for me in this educational enterprise is everything. If you get a well-motivated, skilled teacher, the child can succeed. And of course, enabling environment for the teacher to operate. That's why I said, but some teachers have very, very, let's say, difficult environment. But because of their caliber, because they are skillful and they have a good heart, the children will come out with something. We might not see the benefits immediately, but gradually, the image of the teacher will be enhanced, and that helps with the intrinsic motivation of the teacher to deliver what he has to deliver. But eventually, it's like the public will know, okay, that if you're a licensed teacher, you have satisfied certain standards, and that eventually will make us also feel proud to say, do you think you're a teacher? have you satisfied what Ghana demands of teachers? So I think in a way you're right. Very soon we'll be very protective, of our profession.
Teacher unions in the country say, in principle, they are not against standardization and professionalizing the teaching profession, but they have some challenges with the current system. Reverend Isaac Owusu is the president of the Ghana National Association of Teachers.
As a union, we are not against any teacher professionalism because we feel that as a profession we need to run shoulders with other equally important professions that exist not only in Ghana but across the globe. So if there is a policy that is going to regulate teacher professionalism, we are not against it. But when we realize that there are challenges confronting the policy, that one as a union, we must come out to let the policy formulators know that, yes, you brought this policy, but the challenges that have come as a result of the implementation, we need to meet and then make sure that we iron out those differences. We are ever ready for any policy that will regulate the teacher professionalism, and it add value to the teaching profession. And we believe that with the introduction of the teacher license policy, even though we've experienced some negativity during the implementation, but in all, we cannot rubbish it off that it is a very bad policy, that we should throw it away, because once we are a professional body, we need to be regulated. But the means in which this regulation is being implemented is where the challenges are coming from.
His counterpart at the National Association of Graduate Teachers, Angel Kabonu, says the licensure exams is extremely helpful and bodes well for the teaching profession.
Well, I think the licensure is important. It makes us intensify the principle of professionalism, that anyone that don't just get up and say, I am a teacher. And you, as you know already, before you are licensed, you have to go through some licensure exam. And then also, whilst you are teaching for a period, the law indicates 2 years, then you will also have to renew your license. So if you have done anything untoward whilst you are teaching, and we all know the infractions that some teachers engage themselves in, then your license itself can be withheld. You can also lose your license. So all these things become indicators that as a professional teacher, you are expected to behave and perform in a particular manner. And if you are able to exonerate yourself creditably, your license is renewed. So it is something that I think we have to treasure and hold dear to ourselves. I have a lot of my members who have moved to London, England. Some of them have even got into the rural areas of England and they are teaching. And but again, despite the fact that, of course, everybody knows that the pay will be better than ours, the terrain there is also having a lot of challenges. You know, you don't have the same discipline in schools there that you have here, where you cannot even scold and reprimand a child in a particular manner. Other than that, you are violating. I mean, there are a lot of the restrictions. The environment is totally a different environment. So there are positives and there are negatives.
The NAGRAT president says with the many positives that have been recorded as a result of the licensing of teachers, he is not encouraged that many teachers are leaving the shores of Ghana in their droves and want something to be done to retain such quality minds and hearts in Ghana to impart and impact the Ghanaian society.
I am not encouraging the movement of teachers from our country. Because you see, when the cream of our teachers leave, what happens to our children? So we expect our government to also improve the service, make the service attractive, make the service the number one choice of the graduates, you know, for very good teachers to remain in our country so that they can teach our children. And that there is no alternative to that. Our government should improve the conditions of teachers for our teachers to remain in our country to contribute to the education of our children. Because they have made it one condition out there that the teacher should be a licensed teacher, so that the person they can be sure the person is a professional. And the interesting thing is that Ghana especially, when you are a nurse or a teacher, you don't need to even go and write any other exam for them to take, but they trust our training institutions. But it is hurting us. You know, those days when we were in school, you saw they'll say, hey, there is this maths teacher in this school. And every student in the country is heard about that mathematics teacher. Then they'll say, when you go to this other school, there's this government teacher. So these are cream products, valuable products that we don't have to allow to go. And I'm afraid. And the reason why somebody will leave this beautiful country and go into a cold, sometimes -1, is just because of salary. For some of us, apart from the conditions, there is no way we'll opt to live in Europe or America other than this beautiful country where the sunshine is there 24 hours. But the conditions of service, we plead with government that government should look at the conditions of service of Ghanaian workers, especially teachers and nurses, for them to remain in this country.